As wonderful as Sargent is, there's a kind of a reputation that follows it, especially for those who are not from the West End. What is your message? What do you say to those who really shoot down Sargent and kind of rip it? What do you say to those people who have nothing but bad things to say?
A lot of those issues are perception-based. We've seen crime in the West End fall in almost every year for the last 15 years. And so there's still a lingering perception that there are issues. That doesn't mean that sometimes there may be concerns and we should maybe address those. And so the West End is, we have our patrol to make sure that along Sargent Avenue we're addressing some of those concerns. We're making sure that people feel safe. XQ's is along Sargent Avenue as well, and they opened, I believe it was in the 1960s. So they're a long-term tenant, and or rather, they're a long-term business in the neighborhood, and they're always huge neighborhood boosters. So we've got these neighborhood boosters, them and Morton's on Sargent as well. They've been in the neighborhood for half a century, and they're huge neighborhood boosters. And so while they don't necessarily represent change to the neighborhood, they represent this sort of solid commitment to the neighborhood that we still see from so many businesses.
And it's tough to miss XQ's when you're traveling down Sargent Avenue. There you see it, a soccer mural on the building right there. On the left side of that mural, you see a ball. That ball actually changes colors every time a World Cup happens. And as you'll find out, XQ's is truly a place where the world comes together.
No, I'm talking to Alex Ferguson for how many years he's the champion.
We're not talking about somebody before. We're talking about the present. We're talking about the present.
I'm sorry I started this.
While Saturday mornings are typically quiet at most lounges, it's a little louder at XQ's. Every weekend, the restaurant puts the biggest soccer game on TV, bringing out fans from around the world.
It's electric. I mean, an hour before any big game starts, 10 different nationalities in here watching a soccer game. They all got along. They were on opposing teams, and people respect each other.
On the other side of the restaurant, some noise as well from the daily card game.
They often disagree on how to play the game, and if you've ever seen some Italians play cards, it's quite funny to watch. They're very, very emotional and sometimes a little bit too loud.
These are all folks passionate about their teams and activities. Just like the passion that Sal Infantino shows for the neighborhood. The spot has been a cornerstone on Sargent for close to 50 years.
We came from Montreal when I was 7 years old, and my uncle had started a cafe on Notre Dame. So my dad had joined him here, and a year later they moved into this location.
The Infantinos are committed to making XQ's a meeting place for immigrants.
This has been the heart of all immigrants that have come to Winnipeg, as far as I know, because I've seen everyone come through here. And I can tell you, people are afraid of what they don't know. And I know all these immigrants that have come here, and they're very, very family-oriented and just want a safe place to live.
Every year, XQ's teams up with the Sons of Italy to host a Christmas Eve feast for new immigrants, international students, and other West End families in need. Guests receive a meal, gifts, food hamper, and personal care items, all for free.
Well, we always make people feel comfortable. My mom and dad tell me never judge. Get to know people, and that's a real important thing, that you don't judge someone before you actually speak with them and get to know what they're all about. These are the great guys I got to deal with every Saturday and Sunday morning. I love you guys.
We love you too.
Continuing the tradition his dad and uncle began, and making the Sargent area a better place.
It's been an honor to kind of carry on this business for them. They've really truly invested a lot in the neighborhood, in the people, in the infrastructure of the neighborhood, and that it's just something important to me to kind of carry on.
For Sargent Avenue specifically, what kind of improvements have been made in the last little while or are planned to happen maybe in the coming months and years?
For sure. So the biggest improvement that we've done to Sargent Avenue is we redeveloped a community corner at the corner of Maryland and Sargent, and we put in some new benches, we put in some new posting boards, some new more dynamic elements, including a interactive sundial. So it's become a kind of like way stop for people walking down Sargent Avenue. So it's a nice little place to rest, and it's a little bit more beautiful than it was.
Great to see the work the Biz does. In fact, they have a whole board of members who run businesses in this area, including the man who runs this spot right here. His name is John Unger, a barber on Sargent for more than 5 decades.
John Unger's walk to work is pretty simple. Down the spiraled staircase from his apartment and to the front desk of his business called John's The Hair Designers.
It's 15 seconds out of my life every day. It's great. It's great. You don't have to get in a cold car and drive for half an hour and fight traffic both ways. So, no, it's great working in the downtown and living in the downtown area.
John has been a barber on the street for more than 5 decades. 1962 was when he first cut his teeth in the business.
It was kind of by accident. I was finishing off high school and I was thinking of going to university. My father was a barber. I thought, well, if I did decide to go, I'll take a year off and learn barbering, and I can come and work part-time while I'm going to university. And when I did that, and I started working with my father, I liked it so much that I wanted to stay that way the rest of my life. I loved the job.
A career was born. In 1976, he moved locations from 505 Sargent to 501 Sargent, where he also built his apartment on top.
To do something custom for yourself, exactly the way you want it to be, that was just great, a great period of my life.
Born and raised in the West End, Unger was around when the area first became a multicultural hub.
When I first started working in the area, we had a very large Italian population, and at some point a lot of the Italian people started moving out, and Portuguese people began moving in, and shortly after that we got a lot of Vietnamese people moving into the area, and Filipino. So we got a real cross-section of different races.
While John has remained a constant, the neighborhood continues to change. It hasn't stopped his devotion for the area.
When I started working with my dad, that's when I got familiar with the area, and that's when I started loving it. Hey, I can walk anywhere downtown without having to get into a car, and I can do that in just a few minutes. We have lots of shopping options in the area, lots of business options, and you don't necessarily have to drive to get there.
With Unger enjoying his location and his job, he has no immediate plans for the final cut.
I'm still loving it, and as long as I love it, I'm going to do it. I get to spend all day talking with my friends. That's kind of nice. And be creative too, you know, and make people feel good about themselves. That's what it's all about.